All right, welcome into another episode of the Countersin podcast. This is episode number 78, and my name is Jamie Joyner, and I'm joined by my wonderful fellow co-hosts, Mr. Matthew Lacey. How you doing?
Hi, Jay. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm good, mate.
Hello, everyone.
Good.
Yeah, good.
Hello, dear listeners, and my other wonderful co-host, Mr. Harry Sermon.
Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon. Good morning. How are we all doing?
You're now the other one. Harry.
Yeah.
The other one.
The other.
The other one. Me, Matt, and the other one.
The youngest, perhaps, you could say.
Ooh, all right. Let's
Yeah.
The little one of the group.
Let's just mute Harry. Carry on, Jay.
Yeah, for this one.
It's past my bedtime.
Yeah, we're coming at you from as we're recording, Bank Holiday Monday evening. We are all tired after a good and successful Bank Holiday weekend, but yeah, we're here and ready to talk drums with you all. We've got some interesting topics lined up, and we'll start with our usual little segment, as there's always something exciting going on, or usually something exciting going on in the realms of new goodies. And I believe H has got something to share with us, which is, you've had them how long now? I don't know, like a week or so?
A couple weeks, but
Right.
I didn't put them to use immediately.
Okay. Yeah, well, let's not leave everyone in suspense. Tell us what you've got.
Yeah, so if you've seen any of my latest Instagram posts, you would notice that I've got like wood hoops on my toms now. Obviously, very inspired by Mr. Steve Gadd. No, Steve Jordan. He does have wood hoops though. Gadd has done wood hoops. I think he was the first.
Really?
I think so. Yeah. If you look at his black kit, like the black Yamaha, there, like on his signature Yamaha wood snare, he's got black wood hoops. He did have wood hoops on the toms. So
Wait,
it's very
black
cool.
wood hoops?
Yeah, black wood hoops. It's a piano black finish as well. It's very cool.
I've never seen black wood hoops before.
Yeah, look it up. It's a really cool kit. Cool picture of the kit.
Yeah.
So I've been umming and ahhing about it for a while. I got the wood hoops obviously for my 13-inch snare not long after I bought it and made it from Animal Custom Drums, which is like a drum factory kind of custom place up in Yorkshire. A guy called Carl. So big shout out, Carl. Great service, great products. And yeah, kind of always liked the idea of giving the wood hoops a go, especially because my kit is like a sort of walnut natural finish. I thought the sort of naturalness of the wood also would look really, really cool. So yeah, I got them. I ordered them at the end of January and they arrived at the end of March. So they took a bit of time to make, but I was sort of back and forth with Carl, kind of chatting because he was like, what kit is it? So I can just kind of get a bit of a reference for like, the sort of edging and stuff like that for the heads and whatnot. And he was like, basically, I'm going to have to wait a little bit because it's easier to make hoops in bulk instead of just like constantly building,
So
a set of plies.
For a couple of other like orders to like come in so we can
Exactly, yeah. Kind of imagine like a really long like tom shell that you then just cut. Obviously, it's super thick,
right.
And then you just sort of cut. So like that will be like one person's soup. That will be, or like for example, I ordered top and bottom, so that's like my two, and then maybe out of that batch you might get like another 5 or 6 or whatever, which makes total sense. So yeah, and yeah, we had a little bit of back and forth at first. The floor tom legs didn't really fit, so we needed to kind of like cut in some edging and stuff like that. And I didn't use them straight away, which is why I've had them for a bit and sort of haven't said anything, I guess, because I had some gigs where it just was one of those I can't really afford to. I was recording and I couldn't really afford to kind of tune, like, affect my sort of tuning.
It's one of those
much.
things, isn't it? It's not like you just rock up, you got a new cymbal, and you
Yeah.
just kind of just chuck that on straight away. And even if it's not quite right, you can just like swap it out or just like not use it or whatever.
100%.
But like with wood hoops, it's kind of like it changes the overall sound of your kit like
Massively.
pretty dramatically, and you can't do much about that, especially if you've not gotten, I don't know, but I'm assuming if you haven't kind of gotten familiar with it and how to control it and what that is done, then obviously, you could
Yeah.
be in a position where you're trying to get a particular sound and you just can't because you've not.
Well, yeah, it was one of those where like I obviously like, you know, set it up and changed them over at home and stuff like that and got a rough tuning, and then was like, oh, I can always put some tape or some gels to sort of go with for now and then maybe come back to it another time. And yeah, the first time I set it up, I was like, ooh, I don't know about this.
What were you expecting from them, Harry, straight at the bottom? Did you have a kind of preset in your head of kind of what was going to change about the tone?
Yeah, I was kind of from the research I'd done, they really do sort of focus the sound.
Yeah.
So obviously, like immediately my first thing was like, okay, well, snare weights won't fit. Gels look awful and taped up toms don't look also that great. So hopefully it shouldn't really be a problem. I've got cotton balls in the toms, you know, which kind of help with sustain and stuff like that, because I've also got coated head to top and bottom. So I was like, fingers crossed, it shouldn't be too bad. And the rack tom was okay to begin with, especially once you put it in a snare basket, that kind of, you know, focuses it a little bit more. But the floor tom was really hard to get remotely nice, really. So I was like, this is going to be interesting. So I did put a couple of gels on the floor tom almost straight away, and that helped. But I started using them over like 2 gigs over a weekend and a rehearsal in between. So I kind of got like basically a full weekend of playing them. And by the sort of end of the rehearsal and then into the last gig, they were sounding really, really good. I essentially really just tuned everything up a little bit higher than I normally would.
Right.
And yeah, they sound and feel really, really good. The other thing that not put me off, but I didn't put them on straight away, was I was doing mic'd gigs and didn't really know, like, oh, should I bring my boom stands like we were talking about last episode, Matt, to maybe clip on some mics, but if they don't have the right attachments, should I bring my... It was just one of those, like, do you know what, this is just too much to worry about at the moment. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, I guess like you forget that a lot of mics obviously just like typically will just clip onto a rim.
Yeah.
But then I was also thinking like a bunch of your snare weights will no longer have their usual spot on the kit because you know they don't
clamp over.
They won't clamp over a wood hoop, will they? So you can have to resort to the cotton ball or
but it's, you know, it's really nice. It feels really nice to play. I wouldn't say I'm used to it now, but I'm enjoying it because the drums are just, it feels a lot more like a drum set now, if that makes sense. Like, I think we spend a lot of time on just making like each drum, you know, depending what you play, obviously, Matt, different for your jazz and stuff like that, but each drum like sound really good individually and then as a whole kit. Whereas it was really nice to just like set that rack tom off a little bit higher and it ring a bit more, and that floor tom to just be a bit more open. Especially when I played my 13-inch snare, it was obviously quite cranked and quite ringy, and it was just like, this feels cohesive, you know, and it just made the whole kind of kit sing, maybe play differently as well. But Wood Hoops, really, really enjoying it so far.
Great, so, cool, good.
Cool. Love that. How about you, Matt? You've you sort of brought last week. You sort of mentioned you've been playing with the ProMark stick, signature series, wasn't it?
Yeah.
How have you been getting on with that?
The Marco Minimum signature, going really well. I've really settled into it and got used to letting that slightly heavier stick do a bit more of the work. I feel like I'm not really hammering into the bell, and I can sit and play. And it's just a little bit of bedding in, kind of getting used to that weight in your hands. Because I think from the last episode listener I talked about, I think the NE1 is like 49 grams, and this is like 55, 56. So it is different, you know. And but I've bedded in really well. I'm finding my rim shots. I've found the sweet spot now where I'm playing them with. They're really, because they're heavier stick, the rim shots really crack now, and they crack with actually me putting less effort in.
Yeah, the stick's really doing the work.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And I've also kind of experimented. I saw something Todd Zuckerman did, and he plays a ProMark stick. He's got his signature stick, hasn't he? And whereas I'm moving, so with the band on the stick, I'm very conscious to choose if I'm playing with the band, the ProMark badge, if you like, the stripes. If I'm playing the stripes on the rim, or whether I'm moving the tip of the stick past center. Wow. So you hold the stick a little bit further back, and that extra length on the head when you play over center Just so much more kind of depth of tone. Yeah, so going on really well with them.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so they're going really well. And I alluded to it in the last episode. I had some things waiting to be delivered, and I had a set of microphones come from Behringer because I've got a couple of depth gigs where slightly heavier. So an indoor gig slightly heavier, but I wanted the kick to come through. And I've got an outdoor gig or two coming up where I just wanted to kind of provide. Look, I've got my own mics. I've got a couple of mic stands still to get for overheads, but I got the Behringer BC 1500 7-piece set,
Nice.
which is funnily enough. When I turned up at rehearsal and I was talking to the bass player for the band I was depping with, he does all the sound, and he kind of said, "Oh, what mics have you got, or what kick have you got?" And I told him I've got this Behringer, and he's like, "Oh, okay." And he was kind of like trying to be magnanimous in terms of, "Oh, okay. Well, if you want to use that, that's fine. If you're used to it." He said, "I've got an AKG actually that I use. We could put that in, no problem." And I could tell he was not that kind of taken with the fact that I got Behringer mics. He's all budget mics. He says, "These people buy these kits." I said, "Well, that's what I did, and I want to I got myself up and running with a set."
Yeah.
So that was the rehearsal. At the gig, he says, "Oh, I've been reading up about these Behringer mics." He says, "Actually, the ones you got, they come out really well on all for the money. They come out really well on all of the reviews." I says, "Yeah, we did a bit. I did a bit of research with it." By which I meant I asked Harry on a podcast, I played it on the night. Unfortunately, I didn't put it all the way in the head. In the kick, it was kind of a little bit. It got it in as far as I could with my stand, but I need to adjust the stand. But yeah, it went really well. Great sound, and it's just nice to be kind of in that world where I've got cables and mics, and just and I say I bought that the Behringer SL75, which is a 57 Ghost copy, which I'll be using at a gig in a couple of weeks. So I've got a choice of overheads now, either the AT2020 or the Behringers. I've got clips for all the toms if I want to run a full setup. So I've got a combination. So yeah, it's going really well. I've only used the kick mic in anger, but looking forward to having the opportunity to set up and batch a lot of content or a lot of songs I want to record anyway. So
yeah, nice.
Yeah, but no,
I do
really
think,
good.
like with these like mic sets and stuff, like you every now and again you bump into people that are like, oh yeah, well you don't want to buy like a set, like you got like the like individual stuff. But I'm wondering, like, do you guys think that sets have a bit of a bad reputation, or like I don't know, like I bought mine like years and years ago. They're like some Samsung ones with clip-on mics and whatever. And at the time I was like, oh, this is like pro gear. And now I'm like, okay, no, it's not. It's just that. But like I've been in a couple of on a couple of sessions, and they've been asking me like, oh, can you like record from home and stuff? And I said, oh, I've got like this like basic mic setup, but usually I'll like, I don't know, borrow some mics or kind of use an alternative set. Like I don't tend to use that. And I actually have quite a few of them that just go, oh, I know the ones. Oh yeah, no, you'll be fine. And they're just like 95% of it is about mic placement and drum tuning and just like capturing that raw sound. And then they're like, what you're paying for is actually just a very, I don't know if you would agree, but yeah, like a small part of the overall sort of end result. And I think if you know what you're doing, you can get a lot just from like,
I would agree. I think it like many industries and many worlds of different geekery, I think absolutely there are people out there, the Ash Shones of this world who have got, a £5,000 kick mic. But he's running 3 because that's Ash Shone.
Single preamp or whatever.
Yeah. But I think with anything like that, there's an element of, now, unpopular opinion, I don't know, snobbery, when you get these guys that are absolutely audiophiles and they know it inside out and they know what's good and what is good is expensive. Absolutely. I don't disagree with them whatsoever. But I think that sows the seed that, well, you've got to spend a lot of money to get good mics. Because these guys out there are using these mics. And I agree with you, Jay. It's like, if you can't hit the drum in the center cleanly and you don't know how to tune your drums, a
Yeah.
bad mic, a good mic will pick up a bad
Yeah.
sounding drum really
Yeah.
well. You
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And yeah, I think back in the day, in the words, back in the Zeppelin days, when they're recording to tape, and you altered the reverb by moving the microphone further away,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's how you got your levels, by getting the horn section to all blow into microphones and either move their chair back or forward. That's when it was important that you got great quality mics, because really you were doing nothing with it.
Yeah.
But now, it's I can even with free GarageBand, you can change bits and reverb, and you can alter this. So without getting into plugins. So I think there is a bit of. If I'd had more budget, would I have spent more money? Yes, I would have done. But I chose to spend 129 quid, not 500.
Yeah.
And at what point? Well, if this is a set and it's 500, well, actually now you're getting into the realms of you're going to start buying separate mics, because by the time you've bought a couple of Shores and you've bought a decent kick mic, well, you're spending 500, 600, 700 quid anyway. So
Yeah.
it's that's my take on it. But it's a fair comment, Jay, I think, to raise, that we all get a little bit prissy about.
Yeah. It's kind of, it reminds me of what we've said. I know we've said on this before, like about like when students have like their Gear for Music drum kit, and they're all like, oh, we need to like upgrade it, and what do we do? And you say, well, get heads on it, like just replace the heads, tune it properly. Like you don't need to like spend hundreds on cymbals either. It's just you can go one little step up from the unbranded cymbals to like the basic like Sabian or Zildjian cymbal, whatever, and it will just sound better, and that will just last you for your like learning stage of
yeah.
And I think that sure, when we're talking about we want to be able to offer pro level recording or like pro level sound when we're out gigging, but I don't think in order to do that you've got to have like the latest and greatest mic on your kit in order to kind of do that. There's not going to be lots of people out there sort of going, oh yeah, well he hasn't got the
there's
that or the other to
Yeah.
put on his kick or
Yeah,
whatever.
There's like the lo-fi-ness that also is like quite a sought after thing, like so people talk about like a boxy snare tone, and a lot of people just use an iPhone to get that, because that kind of does that.
Yeah.
But there is that sort of hierarchy of like what is the most important thing, and I think at the top of that, or the bottom, I guess, in that regard, is the drums and / the player. Maybe even the player, because you can have an amazing sounding kit tuned meticulously, but if the person can't play it very well, get a good sound out. Like I played a kit on Friday that was not very good, shall we say that, and it was not in a good way, and it had like probably like 500, 600, 700 quids of mics going through it.
Wow.
Didn't make it sound that great, really. And even the sound guy said, the sound guy did say, and this is his words, not mine, when I sound checked, I stopped playing and he said, wow, it is all in the drummer. I'm not just saying that, folks. He did actually say that.
That needs to be on a t-shirt.
Yeah.
He did. He then also referred to my hi-hats as dinner plates, which was fair. But again, if you compared maybe what I was using versus how I was playing to maybe the person, those are different factors. You might like that, you might not like that. So I think that, but also, there is an argument definitely to, if you had 500 quid and you could get, a Coles overhead, or you could get like a bigger interface with better preamps and all these mic packs. Well, actually, you could probably learn the craft probably better with that single microphone, because that will do a really, really good job.
Yeah.
So there's definitely something to be said for like just getting like a kick and a mono overhead like we're recording with right now. And kind of learning, the craft through that way. Yeah. But I think equally, that's all well and good. But when you want to put tom mics on and you have no idea, perhaps, how because you can kind of just do everything a little bit. So it is your flavor. But I do think they do get a bit of a bad rap.
Yeah.
Like I've used all my mics at the same time, and they're you know, like just because they say the word Behringer on it, sometimes people turn their nose up at that,
Yeah,
and then they listen to it and they're like, "Wow, it sounds amazing." And you're like, "Well, there's the other factors," and like you said, microphones probably actually near the bottom on there. So
yeah.
it's an interesting topic for sure.
Yeah, maybe something we can revisit down the line. Even though I know we've gone over that a little bit here.
Yeah.
But, as we're kind of, I guess, on our own journeys with the like capturing your sound and offering more sort of options when it comes to recording or live music or whatever. I think it's an interesting part of what we have to do now. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, no, definitely. But that's it. All the new stuff done for another episode.
Until next time.
Until next time. I think Jay's going to come back. He's not had anything for a while. I think he's going to come back big. I can feel it. I'm excited.
It's anticipation of something bigger. Maybe I don't know. No,
I'm ready for it.
I'm not going to say that now, but no, I'm enjoying living vicariously through you guys at the moment. What you guys have got going on. So very good. I have been to Drum Depot this week. Having said that, I took a buddy there who had not been before, so we did have a little look around. But yeah, nothing that I could justify getting was on the list.
That's fair.
But it was strange. It was just I don't know if this was just a one-off, but there's 0 Zildjian cymbals in the booth, and I was like,
really,
what's going on here? Like, it was like 3/4 of the room was like Paiste cymbals. Like they feel like making some sort of comeback. So Harry leading the change there. But yeah, anyway, it was great to go and stare at some drums.
The magic of a drum shop.
Oh yeah. Cool. Right. Well, let's after 23 minutes of chatting about drum mics and what's new, we'll dive into our main topic. We'll try and keep this vaguely streamlined, but we're loosely calling this "What is the Dream?" And I think just the idea behind this is just discussing in brief, just between for each of us, what, if anything, is there some sort of I don't know if I want to say end goal, but is there a vision? Is there a point you get to which you go, yeah, this was what, if you ever got there, you'd go, this is what I set out to do, or maybe you've got something that one day you would aspire to reach, and like quote unquote the dream, what that might look like. So a chance to kind of maybe talk a little bit about our background or like our journey so far as well. Kind of just before we were jumping on, we were sort of mentioning just sort of the importance of recognizing that and taking stock of like exactly where you started and where you are now. I think that's a super important, certainly personally for me, and I'm sure for you guys as well. Like when you start, and you pick up your sticks for the first time, you have no real idea what's going to happen or where you're going to end up. And I think even now, like you look back, I can't believe that it's gone that way. And the industry is changing so much, and you're changing as a player, and you influence all these other things. Like it's just such an interesting journey to go on. So it'd be really cool to just sort of get a bit of a flavor for each of us, like what that's been and what it might look like moving forward. So maybe just to kick us off then with a question. I don't know if I'm going to choose one of the first ones I've got written down here, but has there always been a goal as for you guys, like, or a vision of like something that you've wanted to do? I know some drummers, they'll say, "Oh, I just want to be in a band and tour the world and like make it big, whatever that means." And that's like the dream. And I'd maybe argue that a lot of non-musician friends, or certainly in my life, there's certain friends or people that aren't of the world of musicians that will assume that is everyone's dream. Everyone just wants to make it big and play in kind of a massive band and tour the world and stuff, which is great, obviously, and that may well be part of it, or that very thing for you guys. But it's just interesting what people might think, but what actually is going through the heads of people in the industry and musicians in 2026. What does that look like? So anyway, my original question, like, what has there always been a goal or a dream, or has that sort of evolved over time? Who wants to go first?
Harry, do you like go? Do you want to go or?
Yeah, I don't mind starting if you.
Go on,
If
mate.
you
Yeah.
unless you're
No.
chomping at the bit, as they say.
No, it's fine. I just don't want to walk over you. But you're all
Yeah,
good.
no,
Yeah,
all good. No, I think yes and no, really. I think, you know, if you would have told me when I started playing drums, you know, back when I was like 12 or 13 or whatever, that I would have like gone to places like Malaysia and, you know, and all the different places and people that I would have met just because I decided to have like, I wanted to have some drum lessons like that. Like, it's crazy. Like, you know, but I think equally, like, always like one of my biggest inspirations of like wanting to play and why I love playing and why I still do a lot of the things that I do, that a lot of people that I either grew up playing with, grew up studying with, and all that sort of stuff maybe don't do now, is being in a band and writing music and recording it and releasing it and playing it, you know.
yeah,
And you know, if someone told me next week that, you know, someone I play with could go and support Coldplay on like 3 months of their tour next year, yeah, of course, that would be amazing. Like, there's nothing that wouldn't, you know, that would be incredible. You know, big shows, small shows, it doesn't matter. Like, that is definitely something I would love to say I've done. You know, or if you've worked up to that point, the things that come with that, maybe that's like recording a major album, and maybe getting like some kind of involvement with like labels and all that sort of stuff, you know, and a tour of some kind. That would be amazing, just to say that I've done it, you know.
Yeah.
But like equally, I think the older I've gotten and the more the landscape is changing, and the more that, you know, us as a drummer, and not just being someone who plays drums in a group of musicians, I think that doesn't necessarily like fade, but that's like, okay, that's one thing that could happen. But equally, I would also love to have my own studio space, speaking of recording, and be able to record and offer that as a thing, and you know, get myself out there and be known as someone that can record and do that kind of session-y quote unquote work, and do that. You know, I would love to do that. If someone, again, same question, if someone came to my door tomorrow and said, I'll give you 20 grand to build your own studio and you can quit your job, and great, 100%, you know. So yeah, I think like just realizing that everything that you're kind of doing is contributing to that, you just don't necessarily see it. And I kind of say it all the time in the teaching, and I think we all are guilty of this. We say all these things to our students, but we don't say it to ourselves, of like, you know, I do it at in the assemblies of like, you know, just because I picked up this pair of sticks, I've like been to so many places in the world and met so many people that I literally would have never met otherwise. You know, and it's done like so much for me. So yeah, like, it doesn't mean that there isn't that sort of goal, you know. Anything, and literally anything is possible, you know. Even if you said to me like this time last year, like, oh, you're gonna go to Malaysia and do like some big shows, I'd be like, all right, yeah, cool, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, just, you never know. And it's the unexpectedness. So I think there always has been like a goal, a dream of like, I would love to do this. But I think it's also like, yeah, just being sort of grounded enough now to know that all of it's great. If you're doing it, if you're still doing it, all of it's great, you know? And it is hard to kind of think like that, you know? But,
no, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Over to you.
Yeah, I'm really glad you went first, because I'm basically going to say, well, I'm not going to go. I don't need to take as long to say the same things now.
What he said next.
Yeah, what he said. Next question. I think, so with my journey being different in terms of coming to it later, you know, I was talking with someone the other day, about a month ago actually, about, what do you want to do next and what's the dream? And I think I've had to, I've chosen not had to. I've been reflecting quite heavily over the last couple of weeks because everyone says how busy I am, and I'm like, well, yeah, but I'm just trying to keep doing what I'm doing, you know. And and like they're saying, oh, Matt, you've got 2 books on the way, and you're doing a podcast, and you're putting videos out, and you've got 3-4 gigs this week, and you've got 2 rehearsals, and you're teaching 3 schools, and you've got 13 private students, and you teach for someone else on a Saturday, so you're teaching 35 people a week, and I'm like, and I've always been very kind of goal and target orientated, so there's always a bit kind of I heard today actually Pat Garvey on the Drum and Mummers podcast talk about better, always wanted more, better. And it's made me realise actually that when I was saying about what I'd like to be achieving next, which was, Harry, about saying, I'd love my own space, some autonomy to have my own space to go and play in, teach from, practice whenever I wanted, somewhere where I can technically, quote unquote, go to work, even if it's like a really nice shed in the garden, or whatever. So that's on the kind of tick list as a something I'd like to have. But, and I've talked about, it'd be nice to get a call to do a couple of more recording sessions. I'm not known a lot for recording for other people. I'd like to do a bit more of that. I get lots of calls for dep gigs. That seems to be the thing. I ended up, 50% of my gigs are dep or scratch gigs, or are you available next week? And, I'm putting a band together for this jazz night or whatever. So, I get a lot of calls to do that, and it's nice to be wanted. And that's a nice thing that people will contact me and do that. But actually, when I'm thinking about what I'd like to do, I was reminded last month that, but Matt, you're doing all that. You're doing all that now. 3.5 years ago. When will this come out? We're going to come out this Friday, won't it?
7th.
So so I'm kind of May, June, July. I'm kind of 3 months off. Been a full-time drummer for 4 years, and 4 years ago, if someone had sat me down, never mind 35 years ago when I was playing, 40 years ago, playing my first gig. And said, stick at it, Matt, because in 4 years' time, you're going to be co-hosting a podcast. You're going to be teaching 35 students a week. You'll be in 3 schools. You're going to be networking with new people and playing in different parts of the country. I have to keep reminding myself that I am doing the dream.
Yeah.
This is, and there's someone listening to this, or there's other people out there. Every time I'm running around, I've got to prep a kit for rehearsal tonight, or I've got to swap cymbals in my bag because I've got to get out of the house first thing in the morning. There's someone doing a 9 to 5, and I've done it for years, and absolutely no disrespect to anyone, and there's been a few people posting about there should be no shame about having a couple of part-time jobs because it's helping you do the dream. Absolutely. But there's someone who's sat at a desk or driving an hour and a half to work like I used to, wishing that he was getting ready to go and do a rehearsal at 10 o'clock on a Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
So, it's all those, it's that kind of what you aspire to. Once you've got that, it's like, what do I want next? And I think it's important that we go, I think you're right, Jack. We should talk about what the dream is and the aspirations, but just to contextualize, I'm very busy at the minute. And actually, I think it's been pointed out to me, I've probably got too much on for me to do everything really effectively. So, and I know I'm a self-confessed workaholic, so I need to actually, my dream probably now, alongside, I'd like to do a bit more, live work or sessions. I'd like my own space. My dream actually is probably to find a little bit more balance, and work-life balance in terms of all I do at the minute is work. And it's probably detracting from areas of, my social life, my personal life. So, I'm really thankful for everything. And I'm not want to put a downer on the conversation, guys, because there's so much exciting stuff. We all want to do exciting stuff, all that stuff you said, I kind of really kind of want to do more of. And and the other thing is, I want to be a better, quote unquote, better player. There's still stuff that excites me about learning and getting better at X, or if it's something very technical and very practical in terms of just hand speed, whatever it might be on a functionality level, as opposed to perhaps being better at embracing slightly different styles of music. I do some Latin, but that's very jazz idiom. So I just want to have more ability as well. So, but yeah, it's that still ended up being quite a long answer, didn't it? I apologise, but
No,
it's
a big question. It's not.
It's a hard question.
How about you, Jay?
nuanced,
From where you've been doing this kind of quite a long time, and you've had to reset. We've talked about in the past, starting in London and then resetting. So that probably recalibrated your aspirations, if you wish.
Yeah, big time. That particular move, I know I've spoken about it before. That was where there was the big shift, because I'd just been pretty much just teaching up until that point, and I think I was really craving doing just anything other than just that. Like there wasn't even like a little bit of session work. There was like maybe a couple of gigs here and there, but not a lot. So yeah, I think when I kind of restarted and sort of just didn't pour it all into one like basket, and you sort of like kind of diversifying a little bit, so to speak, I think that was huge, just like mentally in the overall scheme of things. But yeah, I mean, very similar to what you guys have said, basically. Like, I think that maybe the difference was when I first started is that I didn't have any sort of aspirations to be in a band or to play music. Like when you were talking about like your aspirations there, Harry, like I'm like, oh no, I get that. But I get that now. That wasn't my driving factor early on. I didn't want to be in a band. I love playing all their songs and stuff. Maybe I thought I just would never get the opportunity to, or like that I wasn't like, I just didn't know how that would happen. I wasn't playing in bands like with my mates or anything. I didn't know about like trying to promote your gigs or like trying to like work your way up some sort of ladder or get noticed by anyone. It was just, to me, it was just like what other people did, and I wasn't. And or that's how they did it in the movies, or kind of like.
And if you don't have those people as well around you, it's kind of harder to visualize that as well. Like if you, out of your like people and friend group, are the only musician, and maybe your friends like some songs, but they don't really, you're just like, well, I like playing the drums, and that's just what I like to do. And that at that age, that's where the conversation stops. And then even like trying to talk to some of the kids like at work and so on, and then they're like, why can't we do this in secondary school? And it's like, because you go and have your instrument lesson, and then you see the other people that play the other instruments, and you have a conversation, and you start the band yourselves, and they're like, wow, really? I'm like, I'm not there like that, that, but I totally see why that doesn't compute, Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's good, and I guess that's why like Rocksteady and people like that and companies like that are so important, because it gets people in a room together. And, it helps people come together and realize like this is how you can interact and play it, like and encourage them to do that. And I think that's our responsibility as teachers, and I think. That's super important for especially the younger generation, because as I say, like for me, I don't really feel like I had much of that opportunity to do it until much later. Like I would say almost I mean, I was playing in live music context a lot, but mostly through church, so it was very different to playing bars and pubs and weddings and stuff like that. I hadn't had that experience, and so it was just like a whole other world doing that. But what I would say is that I just loved anything to do with drums, and basically that
helps.
Is kind of the underlying thing for me still, is that I love the idea of writing music or like being going on a tour, like you were saying, like if someone asked me to do that, I'd be like, like that would be wicked. But I also love teaching. I love communicating my love of the instrument and sharing that with someone, giving advice, giving encouragement to the younger generation or early beginners or more advanced students. I love that, and just I think the more, as I said, particularly since moving and starting again, the more avenues you realize you can explore, certainly in the modern sort of music industry, the more you realize like there's just so much like you can do, and so much like fun and fulfillment that you can get out of so many streams within the music industry. And it doesn't have to look like, I just teach. Like, and again, like not throwing shade on anyone that just wants to teach. You know, there are
Oh,
people that
100%.
make huge livings out of it and absolutely love it and are incredible at it. And I enjoy teaching, and it's part of why I do it. But I think that I've come to love the variety of anything that just involves the drums.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the excitement for me, and I guess the dream for me, is being able to sustain a life where whatever I'm doing, it just involves the drums in some way.
Yeah.
And again, it kind of goes like, now it goes back to what you're saying, Matt, about like being able to look at how far you've come, or like just take stock of like what the journey's been for you. If you told 10-year-old Jamie that he would be, you know, doing like panto gigs, and he'd be doing jazz gigs, and he'd be like going to China as an examiner, and, you know, doing gigs like function gigs, and like playing for Deps and various different bands, like just like loads of, and teaching loads. Like it's just it's very full. I just like, how like that's not what you're taught when you start, and or is it what you're taught, or what I was taught at music school, that wasn't going to be how it was. And then you realize like, oh no, I'm kind of doing this, like you said, Matt. I'm kind of living that dream, and you want to make sure you're not like taking that for granted or wishing that away. And generally, I don't. I think that I'm just the sort of person that, and I think you're similar to me as well, Matt. Is this like a constant like improvement, this constant refinement, this constant what's next? Like what's the goal next? The next thing along the journey, and it's not to say that you know that's a bad thing, but I think sometimes when that becomes the focus, it's very hard to realize like where you're at. You know.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I'll ask a question in a minute, actually. But on that point, in terms of the journey and the goal, I know that I'm very goal orientated. My partner's very journey orientated, and so when we go out and when we've been climbing, or you know, and that's literally get to the top, because you no option but to get to the top. I'm very focused on I've got to get to the top. Where my partner, she'll climb and enjoy every move and the view. Yeah. And I know it's almost a very literal thing, but if you just focus on the goal, you never look up or look out the window, and you miss the view. You know, so it's a really interesting one in terms of I want to be very motivate myself to improve and do this in the future, and I want to get that done. I want to get that done. But what I'm not doing is going, was today good? Well, yeah. I mean, I didn't change the world of drumming forever, you know, but I'd have taught 5 people. And some of those kids are like 11, and who knows? Because now they've got a pair of sticks in their hand. They could be 20 years' time with their own podcast or doing what Harry's doing. You know, and so I kind of it's all the little butterfly effects that I don't think we recognise that actually happen because we're so focused on the goal.
Yeah, and there could be so many things that, you know, if someone offered another option like a 9-to-5 job that, you know, as musicians, maybe we're like, we completely get people and more power to people that are having these jobs like 9-to-5, like that's amazing. And I look at them going, oh man, I really wish I had that stability in my life. And whatever, but sometimes, you know, it's kind of that bittersweet, like, actually no, I chose this and I have the privilege of choosing this. And you know, just the fact that everything's so varied and different all the time, that's it's stressful, but that's the joy of being able to do this and to earn money through playing the drums, you know. And so 100%. I think like I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say I know we kind of made a note of a couple of hot topics to talk about, but I'll probably wrap these two up together. So in terms of like when we've started out, and we're just got to make ends meet, you know. As you've evolved as a player and as self-employed, or in your role, Harry, in terms of your job, but also who you're playing with, you know, who you're gigging with, who's calling you, and that's the same as for me and you as well, Jay. Has there anything changed about what you will say yes to, or, you know, has it's the stuff that you'll turn down because it's Whereas maybe when you started out, you snapped your hand off, everyone's hand off at everything.
Yeah.
Are you now starting to be a little bit more kind of not picky, or I guess I do mean picky, selective? There we go. In terms of, I'm not going to go and do that gig 100 miles away for £10, or whatever it is. And I know we've touched on gigging and the whole should I take the gig or not in the past, but just really as you've become more comfortable in yourself and happy that things are moving in the right direction and you are supporting yourself, have you started to filter a little bit in terms of things that you would perhaps not say yes to?
The picture I put in our chat in the week springs to mind, if you remember that.
I'm going to have to look it up now.
Well, essentially, basically, it was someone I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that.
Yeah, someone I don't know. Or at least I don't know that I know. Hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully.
Messaged me asking if I was free on a date for a gig that was not close. Not the furthest, but not close. That there was also a rehearsal the day before. The fee was okay if you live closer.
Yeah.
And it had a lot of songs that I haven't played.
You would have to prep.
I'd have to do a lot of prep, plus a lot of songs I just probably didn't really want to play, to be honest. And then under that was the catch of, oh, by the way, the rest of the band don't drive, so you'd have to pick them up and take them there. Coincidentally, I was already booked, so fine. But
Didn't have to lie.
didn't have to lie, but equally, I was like, no. And if I wasn't booked, it would still be a no.
Yeah.
So yeah, for there are a few things for me. We've talked about that triangle loads of times of, good music, good people, good money. And as long as you've got two of those, it's probably worth taking. Any kind of combination of those two. But there are a few things of the music is quite important, especially if it's a lot of stuff I don't know, / if I'm not really into, I will probably, if I'm not really into / I don't really think it would necessarily benefit me, for example, then
Is that the kind of stuff that you would have said yes to, like early doors, Harry? Is that kind of? I'm just looking for where that shift is in kind of. I established myself now, and I'm not going to go and play for 20 quid.
I think the thing that would have shifted me, which is probably why I got the Beatles gig, Bee Gees gig, Beatles, no problem.
The Beatles,
the Bee Gees show was the type of thing that it was, and people that I don't know that are clearly or have clearly done a lot of that next level stuff. So my thinking was like, and also like I had a couple of friends that were doing sort of like touring tribute shows and stuff like that, and I was like, okay, cool. This seems like a lot of my friends that were already sort of, let's say, 5 years ahead of me are doing. This feels like a good thing to like kind of now do. And it'll be a learning experience, But now, more so like, things like that. I probably, if I wasn't necessarily like vibing with the music, and I didn't really think it was going to benefit me, or if it was going to be a lot of work, or all those sort of other small factors, there are a few things like that. And like other like more local stuff as well. If it's like just like no shame on like pub kind of gigs. I definitely went for a phase of not doing them for a while. And I've kind of over the last couple of years come back to doing a few more here and there. For me, that's got to be because I really like playing with the people and the music, because it's obviously not for the money. But it's got to also be like close enough. Like I probably won't go and do a pub gig that's an hour away that isn't more than 100 quid, to be honest, no matter what the kind of music is. But that's just kind of my personal preference. So there's just a couple of little things like that. I don't know, it's kind of hard to tell. But again, we've come back to this before, like if you have no gigs, you're going to say yes? Probably. So it is hard.
I mean, Jay, how about you? I mean, I was going to talk, there's that.
No, okay.
I think also, kind of Harry's points there are really valid. I also know I've I've turned down a couple of students for lessons. So
Right.
they've come for a free trial.
Yeah, same.
And I'm like, this is not going to work, Whereas before, I think I'm really happy for any students, and these are pupils, potential students that I'll be teaching on behalf of someone else, and they've asked me, "Well, can you do a trial for this lesson, this person, to see if they get on?" And I've gone. I said, "Do I want to fill that half-hour slot, or do I want to take a breath, or am I happy to lose that half hour's money to go and get a coffee and maybe practice something for 20 minutes before my next student?" And I'm like, I'm going to go and buy the coffee, because it's just, I can feel that's going to be a non-starter before we go, and this is your opportunity. It's their opportunity to see if they like you and if they want to. And these both students that had played. This is youngsters and adults who they weren't beginners. Because that's they don't know what they don't know. This was people that have played before, got a grade behind them or 3 or whatever, and I could just feel that this was going to not be an enjoyable experience for me as a teacher because of their demeanour or their kind of ego around what they wanted to show that they could do, what they were really good at. And I felt that was going to get us off to a bad start when I got to perhaps undo a few things.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel that was going to be received particularly well. So I've decided that I don't want the money for that. I'm going to keep the diary slot open. So yeah, that's you're right about the gigs home we've talked about in the past, but it just got me thinking about, is there any other time I've rather kind of said no? I've got, I've had people want me to teach them, but they're just too far away for me to get to them and make it viable financially.
So, I've had similar that obviously through work and through Rock City, I do get asked like, "Oh, would you do private lessons?" And obviously there's a good chance sometimes it's for instruments that, even though I can teach in a Rock City context, I wouldn't feel comfortable charging people, a normal rate, because and the other factor is, probably more importantly, is be a lot more work for me. I just don't want to. I just don't have it in me. And to be totally honest as well, when it even comes to drum students, I just don't want to do it. I don't have the passion and love for teaching privately in the organisation that you guys do, because I teach 330 kids a week in another context, so to come home and then teach 5 more just to drums, even though like I've got a couple and I really enjoy that time, because it is much more one-off. It's every fortnight, and it's just like, okay, now I get to sit down and we get to really kind of dig into some drum stuff here, and that works for me really well. But it would be as a bad experience for me as much as it also probably would be for the kid, and I don't think that's fair.
No.
And you said it, Matt. You have got to put yourself first, I think, in this situation.
Yeah.
What about you, Jay?
I think that just over time, I've just adapted things and just made realize what I'm not willing to compromise on, and I think that there is a time where I think it's absolutely fine to, like, you're starting out, any gig is good, and any like student that you can get, no matter the age or stage or whatever, is good. And you've kind of got to start. And I'm all for that. And I think was too keen. Like, I started when I was 15. I started teaching when I was 15, and I had grade 4, and I just was like, I'll teach my friend how to play drums. I was just like,
sick.
You just get stuck in and you learn on the go. And actually, while I was a bit like, oh man, like, I don't know if was that the right thing to do? But I also think, no, I gave myself permission and confidence to just like go and do it. And that has in turn, I think, built a sort of an internal confidence of, no, I can do this, and I think that has been quite valuable. I feel like it's about getting a balance of what you're willing to do, but also pushing yourself out of your comfort zone a little bit sometimes.
Sure, definitely.
And I think if you do that, you learn, but also if you don't enjoy it, like, just set that boundary then, and just I'm not gonna do that again. And I think it's a bit more painful, but you just learn from getting burned by things, and
learning experience for sure.
And then like there are other factors, obviously, like especially if you are just doing like you need that money, like financial factor can be a more of a driving part of it, and the decision is much more heavily weighted on the financial side of it. But hopefully, you know, once you've sort of built up a certain sort of amount of work or reputation or whatever, you can start not being picky, as we're saying, but being more selective and saying, oh, actually, yes, I could technically take this extra student or take this gig or like whatever, but work-life balance or whatever you want to call it, just having a rest. You know, I'm terrible for it. Like if I don't put a holiday in like 3 months in advance, it won't happen. Like I will just put work.
Same here, Jay. I'll be full.
Because you can just keep going, and just because I'm an idiot, because I'll look at the diary and be like, there's a gap there. Yeah, I can do that. I don't think about like how much sleep I would have had the night before, or how many days work on a trot I've been doing, or you know, the last second I'm like, oh yeah, someone's got to like take my dog, and I've just got to like work out stuff like that. Like it's it gets a bit much. But what I started doing this last year, was writing down specifically what I'm willing to do and what I'm not. So whenever someone asks me, whether it's an inquiry for a student or whether it's a gig, if I'm not unsure, there's almost like a process that I go through to be like, if it doesn't fit this, I've like previous me has determined what is okay and what is not, and to just trust that. Especially if you're tired or you're stressed or you've got lots of things that you're juggling, someone goes, oh, do you want to just quickly do this? Or maybe like you've just had like a big car bill or something like that. And you're like, oh, I need to take this, whatever gig I can, like try and make back some money. And, you know, that might be a good reason to. But I think sometimes just having it laid out in front of you of like, nah, remember last time you did this happened. So I've just pulled up like a couple of mine, like my teaching boundaries are: do not take on anyone under the age of 6, just because personally that just, it gets too much for me. It's 7 for you. Like just over the years I've just realized that any younger than 6, I really struggle to for them to engage for it, especially for a half an hour lesson. Some of them can barely even reach the pedals, and I'm like, it's just, I've had people ask for like 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds if they can teach them. I'm like, I just know. So I just make a hard rule. Like I don't teach any younger than 6. I also made a note: longer than 4 hours in a row is going to be challenging. Factor in a break after that. And so I know that after about 4 hours of back-to-back teaching, I start getting tired, and I just need a little half an hour or even just 10 minutes, like just to reply to some messages, get a coffee, whatever it is, reset, and then I'm much better. Another one I've got: if I have to drive to a student, it should be under 20 minutes unless it's really worth it. And i.e. you're charging them, properly, or for me, it's like if there's another student that is, 5 minutes down the road and they can do, right
close
after, you can do a few on the bounce. That's different. But, unless they're going to pay me a lot of extra money, I'm not going to drive 20 minutes, and it has to be at least an hour lesson as well. I'm not going to spend more time in the car than with them. And then I've got stuff down for my exam stuff. And when a gig comes in, the bands that I'm part of, I'll literally list out like, these gigs are the priority gigs. These gigs are not as important, or not as important, but you're going to
take them over.
Like, you're like, no, these are like my bread and butter. Like I have to keep these in the diary. It can be different. Like when your gig income is actually part of your overall, like you're paying your bills off of that. Like you might need to be taking pub gigs for 90 quid every now and again, because like that like pays for your Wi-Fi for the month. It's
and you get a couple of those across a month, and it adds up. There isn't nothing against them. No. I think my point is, like, I think all of us agree, as a working drummer, you need to be striving for more. It doesn't stop there. Sure. That is like, for me now at least, that's definitely like, the extras. We get a couple of those as well across some other bits.
I think
it's a good month.
I think that's where I started in that terms of they do rack up if you do those slightly kind of pubby, lower paid gigs. But when I first started out, it's like, with my business head on, turnover is key. Don't think about this gig's low paid and therefore there's not a lot of profit in it in terms of fuel and time. If you start if you start to really drill into it all, but it's turnover, it's money coming in, it's people you're connecting with, and it might lead to other things. Now I'm perhaps a little bit more kind of, well, yeah, I need the turnover, but actually the value of my time means that I'm probably looking to see what the profitability is. And I don't get a calculator out, but what you're willing, how far you're willing to drive and how far you want to get paid. And do they want a rehearsal and, all that stuff. It's kind of, is that great turnover, but actually is there anything in it for me tangible at the end of it? But it's
I do think there's probably, I don't know if there's any sort of like nugget of advice we could offer off the back of this. I think that it's probably worth actually just taking a bit of time to think in advance. Like what is it that you're okay doing and you're not okay doing? And think about that when you've got the energy and the space to weigh that stuff up. Because I think it will look different for everyone. There's no one size fits all. But I think that if you don't do that, you could easily lead to something like burnout, where you're just like piling on loads and loads of work. Or you realize that you're miserable because you've overcommitted to a bunch of stuff and you really want to make space for this other thing. Maybe it's a creative project, or maybe it's like another goal that you want to work towards, or just something that's not drum related. And you've realized that like you've kind of landed yourself in something that you've got to really commit to, and you can't fit it in, and you have to give it an order, and that's horrible, but you have to give the priority order, and be intentional about it.
I think it's just you're right. I think let's do one, like you got the 30-second answer, and then we'll wrap up, and we're conscious of the time, guys. But so
part two maybe sometime soon.
So
there's more to talk about.
We've talked about what the dream was and what things have changed. So in 30 seconds, having said all that, what would be the next thing for you, the next step, the next kind of thing on the bucket list, as it were, to add to the goal, the dream, whatever it might be? 30 seconds.
I think for me, like, it's the I think I'm getting to a stage where I am getting to the privilege of being a little more selective about my work. And I'm really, like, if I'm honest, I'm really proud that I've managed to get myself to that position.
Good.
And to me, it looks like just not stressing out when like a gig falls through, or when I need to have a different commitment over a time when I could potentially be offered a gig. Sometimes I'll go on like a stag do or something, and I'll be like, oh man, I'm so stressed out, I'm away for a whole weekend, and like, what the amount of money I could have earned or whatever. Like, it's a slight easing of that pressure. And I think that the next goal for me is to just to try and continue down that vein of not just feeling so pressured or stressed out when the things in life happen, and it's all just part of the ebbs and the flows of it all. I think an even shorter version is to just trim the bits off that I enjoy less. That's cool. Probably
Harry,
condensed version. Go on, H.
Can you just reiterate the question again? Because I was really enjoying Jay's answer, and I now think that the question is something different. But I just
might
want to
answer
make
the wrong question. Sorry.
No. I really enjoyed your answer, and then it got me thinking about things, and I was like, I actually can't remember the phrase of the question now.
No. What would your next steps be? What's the next thing as part of the dream? What's changed? What direction? What's on the tick list? Bearing in mind all the things we said about, the aspirations do move, but what?
I would really like to. Have more of what I love doing, the depth thing, and I think I really enjoy it, and I don't want to sound cocky or whatever, but I think I in the right circumstances, I think I can be like decent at it. I think it kind of suits like how I kind of like to kind of go about things.
Yeah.
But I think I would love for more of my gigging stuff to be more of the stuff that not like the passion projects, but more of the stuff that is a bit more like me. So obviously I do a lot of, like we said before, the depth stuff, and I'm always like not part of the band and not this and not that, and I'm just the guy that's coming in as someone. And I would love for more of my gigging / income from gigging to be from the stuff that has got kind of my name on it.
Yeah.
And
Bit
kind
more
of get
the creative side of it.
Yeah, get more of like the creative sort of side out, and with the stuff that's got my name on it into the stuff that can kind of, bring in some money. Not to say it's all about money and so on, but
No.
I think there's got to be, there's got to be a point where those, again, quote unquote, passion projects do flip.
Yes.
Because you can't just keep, you can, because that's why you enjoy doing them. But I would just love for some of those things to kind of tip over into the A, busier, B, more sort of financially taking up that chunk. Whether it is, the trio end up going out on doing a few more gigs and stuff like that, and there's, instead of me doing those random pub gigs here and there, maybe next year they're taken up by 4 or 5 trio gigs that pay the same, but all of a sudden I've booked them and I'm doing this, and that sort of thing. Or whether it's original stuff that I do when I jump in and do festivals and stuff like that with other people. It's with Digsby and it's paying, and we're paying more, and it's with Ali, and we're doing this, and we're actually we're traveling here, there, and there, and it feels just like that stuff is just kind of maybe not feeling as separate. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? The wedding thing and the festival, like with your band and all that sort of stuff, they do feel so separate.
Yeah.
So I would just like that to kind of level out a little bit more.
Yeah,
so that's kind of what I'm doing. But I think for me, for more on the tick list, is just kind of getting more stuff with sort of my name on it, recording and and band stuff.
Yeah. You guys have made my answer really quick, really easy. I think I'd like to see Montgomery Slacks kind of start to push out of where we are at the minute and start to get a little bit wider in our context and be known a little further afield, and start to potentially look at opportunities that are, financially viable, and start to swell a bit of a following. And just the success, the next step of the success ladder when it comes to an originals band. Because I want that to feel more like exactly you said, Harry, the main thing that it doesn't have to fit around everything else. I do prioritize it, but it'd be nice if that was that. So a little bit of what you're talking about, Harry, and also Jay, from your point, I think I as I said, going back to what I said at the beginning, I need to be more confident, less anxious, but enjoy the journey more. Because quite a lot of self-doubt creeps in quite a bit, and it's kind of like I need to understand that I'm making this is success. I'm doing it successfully, and it's about actually, can I stop to enjoy it a little bit, and don't be worried about booking. If as soon as I put this in the diary, someone's going to ring me for a mega gig, and I'm going to have to say no. That's going to happen. But it's just taking that from a kind of work thing to a kind of I'm enjoying what I do, but it doesn't define me. So
that's good.
We'll definitely do a second part to this in terms of the dream, and maybe revisit this.
We could get into
revisit it in 6 months' time, and see where we are with that.
Yeah.
But thanks guys. Thanks for bringing that to the table, Jay, and it's been a good one.
It was great.
Oh, it's cool.
Thanks everyone for listening, which looks like an hour and 8 minutes or so. So thank you for that.
So sorry.
Unless Harry's worked his magic in the edit, but we obviously
somehow it's 45 minutes. I don't know.
Insert time here.
A
lot to talk about. I'm sure we have lots of people listening who are not doing it full time. We've got people listening who do it full time, and they'll all have their own version of what the dream is and where they want to be. So we'd love to hear everyone's thoughts and perspectives on what they've taken from what we've said, but please add in your own points of view when we get a reel out. DM us on Instagram at Count Us In Podcast. Please follow along there. That'd be great if you could do that. And you can also follow us and find us on YouTube as well, where this episode will be available on YouTube the week after it comes out on all of your podcast platforms. That'd be cool. If you want to kind of donate a little bit of money for helping us keep going, and you appreciate the time and effort we're putting in, you could donate a coffee to us at buymeacoffee.com/Count Us In Podcast. That'd be great if you could do that. We'd appreciate that. Until the next time, gents. I don't think there's anything else.
Excellent.
Talk
I think
about.
that's it.
Yeah.
What a wrap up. What a
Is
wrap
that good?
up.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like it was pre-recorded.
If you could just chop that out for next week as well.
Yeah,
That'd be
yeah,
great.
just copy and paste.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Brilliant.
Thanks, guys. Good chat. Thanks
Nice
everyone
one.
for listening. Appreciate the support. We'll see you again
Yeah.
soon.
See you
See
soon.
you next time.